Hello, good evening, and welcome everyone. My name is Michelle Miller, and I am privileged to share with you this evening some interviewing tips. But before I start, I just want to have a quick disclosure so everyone understands that the information that I'm about to share is all coming from my 16 plus years of experience, including recruiting, staffing, resume writing, interview coaching, and more recently, I'm the director of career services at a university, so I train new students how to go out into the world, help them with their resumes and so forth. So pretty much, I've helped thousands of people over the years with their career development. So that's where I get all this information from. So I just wanted to put that out there so you all understand the credentials behind all the information you're about to receive. So with that said, without any further ado, let's get started, all right? So first and foremost, understand that when you're interviewing for a job, make sure that you are qualified and you know the kind of position that you're interviewing for. So I found this handy dandy cartoon here that I found quite funny. It says, search jobs you're qualified for, be mindful of what you put your resume out there for. So this is at the bottom. Right now we have openings for a beach lifeguard, a greenhouse gardener, and a sauna manager. Last time I checked, there's no snowman that can do any of those. So just make sure you're qualified for the positions. And here's another one. I love this. I have this on my desk at work for my graduates and my students. And it was a tweet, and it's so true. I'm sure everyone has been at the supermarket, the mall, wherever it is, and it's either A, happened to you, or you know someone it happened to, that you're waiting on that parking space and someone just turns in there. So take a quick look at this. It says, the man who just drove into the parking space I was waiting for and told me to bleep off has arrived for his interview with me. So you never know, even in the parking lot, your interview is going on. All right, so there are various types of interviews. Some are easier than others. There are phone interviews. Nowadays, it's happening quite often. The traditional one-on-one in person, they call you, you go in. That's always been the number one way. There are panel interviews, which means that you are being interviewed by a panel of people, several people. Now, this comes into play very often in healthcare. For instance, nurses typically have panel interviews. Mealtime interview is by far one of the most dangerous ones because they're not only interviewing you for the job, but they're also looking at you personally. Your mannerism. It's said that if you sit down to eat and you get your food, and before tasting it, you start to add salt and pepper to it, or you just start to season it up a bit, that says something about your character because you don't even know what it tastes like yet. So you jump the gun there. And of course, nowadays they also have a lot of video and Skype interviews. So there are many different ways, and you have to be mindful and treat them all professionally. Okay, so when does an interview start anyway? Well, the very first point of contact. What do I mean by that? Okay, the minute you submit your resume and they respond to you, your interview starts at that point. Whether it may be via email or a phone call, whatever the method is, consider your interview in progress the minute an employer contacts you. Okay, so be very mindful of that. Immediately when a potential employer contacts you, always consider it as part of your interviewing process. You can definitely mess yourself up that way by not carrying out yourself in a professional manner. All right? Now, the call, the actual interview call. All right, so once you're seeking employment, always be prepared for a phone call. If you know you're putting your resume out there for people, make sure you're always prepared to get a phone call. Alert others in your home or those who answer your phone that employers may be calling. So everyone must be on their best behavior, not just you. your spouse, your siblings, your children. Just make sure no one's answering the phone in any kind of derogatory way. There's excessive noise around. Let people know. If you are in a noisy place and an unfamiliar number calls you, do not answer. Do not answer it. Let them leave you a message and you return the call later when it's quiet. I once called someone for an interview and I hear in the background, can I get a number 4 with a Coke? And so they answer the phone, obviously on their cell phone, and they're in the car with someone who's ordering from McDonald's, Burger King, or wherever. So that was a definite turn off, and no, I did not proceed with that person. So just make sure everyone is aware and you are aware. The email. Check your email several times throughout the day during business hours if you know that you're expecting to hear from someone. I would say anywhere between the hours of 9 and 5 throughout the week. Make sure you're checking your emails at least 3 to 4 times, because just as they're emailing you for an interview, that doesn't mean they stop there. They may email you and 10 other people for one position. First come, first serve. So check those emails and respond promptly. Address the sender by Mr. or Miss. Okay? Never address someone by their first name unless they open the door for that, because you don't know how the person on the other end feels about that. Proofread your responses for errors before sending. So again, when you email, make sure you read it. And do not use shortened words. Yes, when you text one another, you use the IDK, the LOL, and I don't know whatever else. But when you're sending an email, do not use that. Spell out every single word. All right, so what do you need? If you do not have a pen and paper in front of you, kindly ask the employer to give you a moment to get a pen and paper to write down the information. Don't be ashamed or embarrassed to do so. So, the phone rings, you're sitting in your living room and the phone rings, you're watching TV, so you turn the TV off and you answer the phone. Obviously, you didn't have a pad in front of you and a pen to write things down. So you just say, can you just hold on a moment while I get something to write down this information? It's better you do it that way than have no clue where you need to be, and at the appointed time you're calling them. Don't be embarrassed to just ask for a moment to get pen and paper. No employer expects people to walk around 24/7 with pen and paper in hand. Okay? Now, information that you need to write down. Pay careful notice to everything here. You need to write down the name of the company, the address, and their phone number. Most times people have applied to several jobs, 3, 4, 5 jobs, and a lot of times when they get a phone call back, they have no clue which one they applied to. So make sure, and don't be embarrassed to say, I'm sorry, what is the name of your company? That's okay. Always ask. It's okay to say that you've applied to several places. You just want to be clear on which company or facility this is. Write down the position you've applied to. It's possible you've applied for several different positions. If you are a licensed professional, or you have a specific trade, if you're a plumber, you're a nurse, you're a physical therapy assistant, then obviously that's the kind of job you're looking for. So be mindful when you're asking the title of the position. For instance, if you are a nurse and you applied for a medical, surgical, telemetry, and ER position, it's okay to specify what unit. Okay? Get the caller's name and get the interviewer's name if it's not the caller. Many times the interviewer will have a secretary or a receptionist or someone call you to set up the interview. I'd say a good possibly 85% of the time, the person that sets up the interview isn't necessarily the person you're going there to meet. So make sure you have the name of who you spoke to and the name of who you're meeting when you get there. Know the time and the date. Ask about parking. You don't know how important that question is. If you've never been to the place, for all you know, the parking lot is humongous, and it takes 10 minutes to walk from the parking lot to the actual building. Who knows? Or they have designated parking for visitors, it's okay to ask about parking. And it gives you kind of an idea as well, as far as time, how much time it's going to take you between the time that you park and the time that you enter the building. Map out the location a day or two before. I strongly suggest you do so. I mean, if it's really far away, I understand that you don't want to take an hour drive or hour and a half drive just to look, turn around, and go home. You have the internet. Go on Google, map it, so you see how you're getting there, and make sure you have alternate routes as well in case of traffic jams or anything like that. Have a backup plan. If you have children, or if you know that your transportation isn't 100% reliable, someone may have a car that starts every other day. So make sure you have all those backup plans. Find out about the company. I can't stress how important it is that you research the company. Go to Google. Google is your friend. Type in the name of the company. Even if they don't have a website, you should be able to pull up something about that company. Now, if you type in the company and it doesn't exist, you can't find it, well, that's a red flag. I would keep searching, but perhaps before your appointment, I would maybe call back the same number, just reiterate their address and their location just to make sure, okay? Now research the particular position that they've called you in for. Check on their website, see if they have anything posted there, or even check on similar companies' websites. Just research that position on a whole if it's not something that you are seasoned in. Know what you're talking about when you get there. Learn the company's mission statement, what they're about. Know their products. Know what kind of company it is. The worst thing is to show up to an interview to a company and you don't even know what the company does or, what their products are. Super embarrassing. So get that done. What not to do. Okay. Pay close attention. For all of you who are smokers, do not smoke. I know it may be challenging, but do not smoke or expose yourself to any kind of smoke after you've gotten dressed for your interview. Why? You do have some people who are allergic to smoke. You do have some people who don't hire people who smoke. Okay? So that's a discriminatory factor that can just take you out of the game for the position. Okay? And it's not only smoke, it goes the same for any kind of excessive perfume or cologne. There are people out there, we know them, that bathe in their cologne and bathe in their perfume. Don't bathe in it that day. Okay? Do not chew gum after you've arrived to the location. Sure, you can suck on a mint or something if you need to, but while you're there waiting, do not sit there, chew, pop, stretch, do whatever you do with gum. Do not bring a friend, mother, brother, sister, uncle, aunt. Don't bring anyone with you to your interview. If someone drove you there, that's okay. However, have them stay in the vehicle. Do not let them come out. Do not wear excessive or bright-colored accessories, makeup, or even clothes for that matter, unless you're interviewing for a clown. That may be okay. But, do not wear anything rambunctious like that. Do not carry huge, big, fancy pocketbooks, ladies. Not appropriate for an interview setting. Carry something neat and professional. Okay, so let's get into some ideas of what to wear. So these are two photos I found that are pretty much on point, per se. The young lady there to our left, she's wearing flats. I think heels are more appropriate, but I did my best to find photos that would be on target. So both those individuals to the left, both of them have on suits, dark suits, with light inside shirts and tie. Awesome, perfect, on point. All right. Dark suits, medium shades of gray, it's also okay. Light shirt or blouse on the inside and conservative tie. No tie with funky stuff. If it's in December, don't wear a Santa tie. If it's in November, don't wear a turkey tie. Just a very clean-cut conservative tie. And shoes, just simple shoes. I mean, these are a little old lady-ish, but simple shoes where the heels are not too high. You know, we don't want any stilettos for job interviews. Simple, just simple shoes. What not to wear. You can overdo it. This gentleman here, I don't know where he's going, but I hope it's not to an interview. Okay, that's a bit too flashy for an interview. And the woman, for her, it's a little more for a church setting or some kind of banquet, not at all for an interview. Both are nice for church or a formal event, but not at all for an interview. And these hideous shoes here, no ladies, no, no, no. While you may think they're awesome, pretty, and beautiful, not for an interview. Not one of those shoes are appropriate for interviews. Gentlemen, I'm talking to you too. That pair of shoes right there, not appropriate for an interview. You could wear it to a social gathering or whatever it is, but not there. Not that either. Ladies, the long dress look, that's not appropriate for an interview either. You know, we're talking business attire. That's not business attire. Okay. It's not only about what you are wearing. It is also your appearance. Okay? Be mindful of your appearance. There's nothing wrong with having dreads or natural hair, because we have a young lady here with natural hair. Nothing wrong with it, but have it more tamed and neat. What do I mean? This gentleman with the dreads, I think it's more logical for him to have it back. Have it back in a ponytail. You know, tame it. Don't have it all over your head. The young lady, same thing. Find some way to tame it. Okay? This is also a no-no. We've all seen it, and I think at some point we've all been kind of guilty when we buy something new of not taking off all the tags. And the photo on the right with the X, the slit thread, I've done it myself. You know, you buy a new dress or a skirt, and it has a split, especially a split in the back, and we always forget to slip that little thread there. So make sure that the night before or the day before, you're looking at your suit, that there's no tags or anything hanging off of it. If you have a split, whether it be for gentlemen, the tail of your jacket, for us ladies in our skirts, please make sure that you're cutting that off. Now, what to bring with you? Obviously, the number one thing is, drum roll, resume, right? Resumes and cover letters. Cover letters are always recommended. Your resume, mandatory. And I always suggest bringing 4 to 5 copies at the minimum. Remember when I mentioned a panel interview, okay? Say you decide to bring 2 resumes, 2 copies, and you realize when you arrive that you're about to have a panel interview. So 3 people walk in the room to interview you. You only have 2 resumes. Who do you not give one to? That's a predicament. So make sure you have enough. You can bring 10 if you like, okay? Now also professional references. You have 2 options for references. You can either have reference letters, which I personally think is the easiest route. When you get a reference letter, it's done. They take the reference letter from you. It's legit. It's good. And also just a quick FYI, make sure your reference letters are within a maximum of a year. The maximum, you know, preferably within 6 months. You know, I've had people present me with reference letters from 5 years ago. No thanks. So make sure that your reference letters are fairly recent. If you don't have actual letters, have neatly information typed with the person's contact information, their name and so forth, and the company they work for. Nowadays, I mean, some people may still ask for personal references, but I never did because they were pointless. Why would a personal reference say anything negative about you? They love you, you're wonderful, hire them. You know, so I always shot for professional references. The issue with that is when you have the references and you present it to an employer or a potential employer, they now have to go through the hassle of calling these people. So you give them 3, they call, they get a hold of 1. And they call again, they, you know, keep leaving messages and playing phone tag. After a while, the employer is going to say forget it, next, and move on to the next candidate. And so that's why reference letters are better. okay? But again, if you can't get it, you just can't get it. That's just what it is. Now, for references, you don't need to give references with your resume. At the interview, the interviewer does not already have a copy of your resume in front of him or them. You hand it to her, him, or them. You should have a copy and make sure you hand it to them. You do not need to give them references unless they ask. Don't volunteer. Wait for them to ask for it. All right? Now, the last thing I have, which I think is quite important, and I haven't heard anyone else in my profession mention this, but I think this is quite important. You should have what I call a dummied resume. What do I mean by that? You should be looking at your resume as well. Now, we all know you can't put every detail, nook and cranny on your resume, but if there's something you want to elaborate on or explain further or point out during your interview, you can write little notes on it. You see at the end there, I have little details highlighted that you don't want to forget. You know, when I do resumes, and you all can stay tuned, I also will be doing a resume workshop within the next week or two. But when I do resumes, I make sure I put some kind of summary qualifications on there, and that's what you can use to guide you through your interview. The interviewer says, tell me about yourself. You're nervous as it is, and it's hard for us to tell people about ourselves. Well, if you look down on your resume real quick, you'll see some buzzwords. And if you're smart, you had some of them highlighted or underlined so you see them faster. And that's what you can use as your dummied resume to help guide you through. Now, that's only for you, by the way. It's okay to have a portfolio in front of you, and we're going to get to that. Here we go. It's okay to invest in having a professional portfolio in front of you and have that open with your resume in front of you. Now, with that said, with the portfolio, they usually come with a notepad, and you see it has flaps there. So you have the resumes in the flaps to your left, and to your right where the notepad is, make sure the first page is empty for you to take notes. It's okay to take notes while the employer is speaking to you. If there's something he or she said and you didn't understand, you're going to wait until they're finished to ask a question or have them elaborate. Write it down really quick. Make your eye contact, and you can look down and write it down. It's okay to take notes, all right? Now, there we go. It's okay to take notes, write things down, and have questions. On the second page of this, underneath it, or second or third page, give yourself a page or two to take notes. The second or third page, you should have already had questions written down for the employer that you thought of the night before because you remember were on their website and learning about the company and the position, right? So you should have your own questions prepared for them. Okay, what also to bring? Bring with you, and this is what we usually always have with us anyway, your driver's license. Not Mr. Bean, but bring your driver's license, okay? And I suggest you bring your Social Security card as well. Now, I have that or there because, or your passport. Here's why. When you are offered a position, and there is a chance you can go to an interview and they can offer to hire you right away. If that happens, hey, you're ready. You don't have to worry about faxing them anything, coming back the next day. Have your driver's license and your Social Security card with you. The purpose for those are for I-9 forms. An I-9 form is what you fill out when you're going to start working somewhere, and that form states that you are legal to work in the United States. So you have, if you've ever seen the form, it has Section A, B, and C. Now, Section A and B would be your driver's license and your social. Or Section C would be your passport. So you can have either driver's license and social or your passport, okay? So I think those are handy dandies to bring with you. Have them handy in case you're given an application. W-4 is your tax form. That's where you put what you want to claim and how much taxes you want taken out. Your I-9 form is where you'll put these items. What else to bring? If you're a licensed professional, bring your portfolio. What does that entail? You should have your license and or certification. For your profession, you should always have your CPR card. Make sure of that. Most of you walk around with it anyway. And I suggest you also bring your degree and or certificate validating your educational background. Okay? So professional licensure or certification, relevant credentials and compliance, and educational credentials. If it's oversized, please don't bring the original. Sometimes our bachelor's and our master's degrees are oversized. Just bring a copy. Now, your presentation, your body language during your interview can be detrimental to you. Now, these three people are all in different stances, and their body languages are all saying different things. This lady here looks very nervous. It's normal to be nervous, though, but not in the position she's in. This is what I take away. Please, oh Lord, let me get this job, okay? This guy is too relaxed. He's like, whatever, reading the paper, this job is mine, it's done. All right, so the body language says a lot. This woman is sitting very professional, sitting up, okay? So just sit back in your seat. No matter how nervous you are, that's normal. Sit back, sit up. Have your portfolio in your lap, okay? All right, questions not to ask on the first interview. A lot of people blow their interview with these questions. Do not ask salary-related questions unless the interviewer initiates it. So the first thing out of your mouth should not be, so how much does this pay? Okay? The length of time the interview process will take. Don't do that either. If the interview seems to be going a long time or whatever it is, unfortunately, you're the underdog there. You just have to grin and bear it. The amount of vacation, sick days off, PTO, pay time off, if anything of that sort, do not ask that on the first interview. Tuition reimbursement, do not ask that either. Anything negative you've heard by word of mouth or from the media. Do your homework on the company before applying. I said that in the beginning. If you saw negative things that you feel would deter you, still go to the interview, see for yourself what the place is like. And you know what my suggestion is, if the interview seems to be running okay in your eyes and you have to be the judge of this, ask and say, would it be possible for me to have a tour of the place? Nothing wrong with asking. And while you're touring, you can look at facial expressions. You can see what's going on in the office if they allow you to do it. So that's a strategy that may work. If you've heard negative things, look around. If they seem to be true, you do your interview, you go home. If they offer you a position, decline it. Okay? Questions safe to ask. What is the training process for the position? If offered the position, how soon would you need me to start? But follow through with that by saying that you are available as soon as possible, because that question is kind of tricky. Sometimes people ask because, hey, I'm interviewing today, but by the way, next month or next 2 weeks from now, I'm going on a 3-week vacation. So make sure you follow through. Any confusion about any mother companies? And the example I give, because locally here, actually, you know what, I'll give it generically. A lot of hospitals are run by a larger body, all right? There are a lot of universities are run by a larger body. So if you read up on the company and you see, okay, well, I'm going to Palms West Hospital, but when I go on their website, I see Hospital Corporations of America. So a lot of companies have a mother company. If you have any confusion there, feel free to ask the affiliation. This is Palms West Hospital. What's the affiliation with Hospital Corporations of America? That's okay. The work hours, make sure it isn't advertised in the ad though. Okay, sometimes they do put that in the ad. It doesn't look good if they've told you and you're asking. So just, again, research the company. What are the top 3 priorities you'd like to see me complete if offered the position? Great question. What are the possibilities of professional growth and advancement? Another great question. Does the company give preference to promoting internally before bringing an external candidate? bringing in external candidates. What are your timeline for making a decision or choosing a candidate? And clarify any questions you have regarding the job description itself, okay? Most important thing, before you leave, ask the interviewer for a business card. If they don't have one, make sure you still have their first name, last name, and their phone number, okay? Which you should have gotten in the beginning anyway. If you did not for any reason, make sure you have their first and last name written down and their phone number. Okay. Possible interview questions that are asked of you. So general and personality-based questions are, tell me about yourself. This is a very tricky one, and as a matter of fact, I sat with a student today, and we went through this, and I said to her, you know, if you're asked the question, tell me about yourself. You don't start by saying, well, I'm married, I have 3 kids, we have a dog, my mother's going to be moving in with me soon, and, you know, we just moved here from blah, 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 blah. No, that's not what they mean. What they want to know is, well, I have 16 years experience in recruiting and 4 years experience in higher ed. I've been doing this for X amount of time. I'm punctual. I'm highly reliable. That's what they want to know, okay? Give me 5 adjectives that describe you, okay? To be honest, that is something that I ask of people when I'm doing their resumes. Day in and day out, I see on an average, I do anywhere from 3 to 6 resumes a day. Yes, I do. From 3 to 6 resumes I do per day. And every single person I say, give me 5 or 6 adjectives that describe you. So that's something you should think about. And if I'm the one that does your resume, those adjectives are in your summary, in your qualifications to help you out. Why did you choose this field or work? And that's usually in the helping industry. What do I mean by that? Healthcare provider, nursing, a CNA, a PTA, something like that. They usually ask those kind of questions. I'm sure there are other industries as well, but the helping industry, they really need to know that you're really from the heart. What are your strengths and weaknesses? Strengths are the easiest one. The weaknesses are the most challenging one. And I'll give you an example, which is actually one of my weaknesses, and how you can make a weakness look positive. So if you're asked what are your weaknesses, one of my weaknesses is if someone else isn't getting their job done, I'll go ahead and do it and do other people's work because it needs to be done. That's a weakness that I have. And you can go on to say, I am working on that, but I'm the kind of person that just likes to get things done, even though it's backing me up from getting my job done. Okay, so it's a weakness, but to every employer, that states you're a hard worker and you want to make sure the work is done. Why should I hire you? I tell my students, to be honest, you have to dig deep inside. Why do you want the job? And why do you feel that you are the perfect candidate for that job? All right? If you don't know, you shouldn't have applied. What are your salary requirements? The best thing you can do also, not only research the company and the position, but research the salaries. Best way to do it is BLS.gov. Bureau of Labor Statistics.gov. Best place to look. There are many different resources. I mean, you can get it from Indeed, you can get it from salary.com, and all of them are going to give you different salaries because I don't know where they're getting their source from. But you can go to the BLS and you can just take a quick look at salary.com as well. So you have an idea of what the salary should be. And if you can, give a range. Don't say, oh, I'm looking for $20 an hour. Say, 18 to 22 per hour. If 18 is your absolute minimum. If 20 is your absolute minimum, I would say 20 to 24. Stay within about a $3 to $5 range. I prefer to give an annual salary because when you give an annual salary, most employers can't work it out hourly in their heads immediately unless they have experience doing that. Like, for instance, $30,000 a year, that's around $14.50 an hour. I know that because I'm used to it. But when you give them an annual salary range, it's a little better. So I'd say something like $30,000 to $35,000 a year. Alrighty. Keep in mind that these are generic questions and not guaranteed that your interviewer will ask these exact questions. Behavioral and scenario-based. These are the dangerous guys, all right? So, tell me about a conflict with a coworker and how you handle it. Never bash a person. You can explain the situation. Well, my coworker and I disagreed with a report, and of course we agreed to disagree, but at the end of the day we had to work together to get this report done and sent to our superior. Okay, so you can give a scenario. Don't bash the person. Never ever you do that. And try and include the outcome. Hopefully it was a positive outcome that you got the job done. Try and include the outcome in there. How would you balance multiple deadline-based tasks? Now, call me crazy. That is a question I've heard asked, but deadline-based, there's your answer right there. If you have a project due on Monday coming, and you have another project due in 2 weeks, what project are you going to work on tomorrow, which is Friday? So, if it's deadline-based, it's a no-brainer. You work on the projects that are due closer in time. Tell me about a time when you had a difficult customer, client, patient, or patient, and how you handled it. Every single person has had that issue. My suggestion to you is make sure you are using customer service in there. All right? Every business, every company, every facility, customer service, customer service. Saying those words, I can guarantee you will get far. Do you prefer to work as a team or independently? Now, most jobs on the planet require teamwork. IT, sometimes people can work by themselves. Mortuary science, you work with dead people, but for the most part, most jobs out there are team-based. How you answer that question, go back to the job description, go back to the company. All right, there's certain jobs, okay, you read the job, it may say it's required that you work as a team or whatever it is, so make sure you're answering that question logically. Again, there aren't many jobs out there where it's just you, yourself, and you working it. Honesty is the best policy while being professional. Again, little disclosure, these are generic questions and not guaranteed that an employer will ask any of these questions. Understand that just as we are individuals with our own personalities and our own thoughts, we're just like that in our workplace as well. So the questions I will ask doesn't mean that another interviewer will ask the same questions. It's all based on your interviewer, how well your interview is going, what they need to get done, what the job is all about. So you'll get asked different questions based on the job. Illegal questions, this is super important as well. An employer should not, I was going to say cannot, but I've heard of them doing it. These questions are illegal for them to ask. Do not ask, they cannot ask your marital status. For us ladies, sometimes it's a giveaway if we're wearing our ring. They cannot ask any kind of sexual orientation. They cannot ask your age. They cannot ask if you have children or how many children you plan on having. They cannot ask your ethnicity, and they cannot ask your religion. Now, religion, I'll put a highlight there. Say, for instance, you are a Sabbath keeper, a Seventh-day Adventist, right? And wherever you're going to work, they're open on the weekends. Once you interview, if the interviewer says to you, do you have any restrictions you need to let us know about? Now listen to me carefully. If during the interview, the interviewer asks, do you have any restrictions? That's when you would say, well, I cannot work on Saturdays because of religious preferences. Just like that. Do not volunteer that information unless prompted to. Only if they ask you. So during the interview, you're just talking, oh, and by the way, I can't work Saturdays. Don't do it that way. If they're physically saying to you, okay, our work hours are from Monday to Saturday, then again, you tell them, okay, I'm unable to work on Saturdays. Can we work something out? Okay, so that's super important. Again, legal questions, how to handle them. While the questions may be illegal, it's your choice to answer. They can't, if you answer, you answer. But understand you do not have to. Remember, your answer can be used against you if you do answer it. And employers that interview are all trained on what's discriminatory and what's not. So they know what's discrimination. You can say to them, I'd rather not answer that as it's a personal question and not related to my ability to perform in this position. Or, you don't have to use that exact jargon, but something along that. Understand that there are a couple exceptions. If you're seeking a government or federal job, there are high-level background checks involved. There are jobs out there that they need to know about your family. If you're working for certain areas in the government, they need to even background check your family members. So that's the exception to that if it's a government or federal job. Now, beware of this lady. I don't know if she looks familiar to any of you guys. Who is she? She's the receptionist. The person at the desk when you get there. Beware. Whatever you do in that waiting room before you see your interviewer, she's watching you or he's watching you. Whoever the person in the front is, whatever you do, they will report it to the person that interviewed you. Keep that in mind. The receptionist is watching your every move, and any inappropriate action, the interviewer will hear about it. Do not take out your cell phone at any given time. As a matter of fact, turn it off before you walk into the building. Do not engage in any conversation with the receptionist unless she speaks to you. Be cordial and say hello to her and who you're there to see. Don't engage in any conversation. She may not be in a good mood and tell the interviewer, oh, that person was so talkative and, telling their own personal business or things like that. And remember to tell her or him, thank you on your way out. When does the interview end? After you've left the premises. Remember in the beginning, we saw the karma where the person pulled into the spot for the interviewer. Well, leaving the parking lot, karma can still bite you. The interviewer may be able to see you through a window. Someone else in the parking lot may see you doing something inappropriate, go inside and say, hey, did anyone interview such a, after you pulled out of the parking lot, you're safe. Bye-bye. Well, I thank you all. Now, let's talk a little bit about the thank you letter. It is recommended that you send a thank you letter after your interview. Traditional letter, you can send it via email nowadays where people are mostly communicating via email. If that's the case, I would do that a couple hours after my interview unless it's a Friday. If you interview on Friday, say at 3, 4 o'clock, I would send a thank you letter immediately when I get home because by Monday they're not going to remember you. Okay? So otherwise, within 24 hours, if you interview Monday, it's fine to send it on Tuesday, but Friday is a tricky day only because of the weekend. Identify the day of your interview and the position you interviewed for so the interviewer knows who you are. Understand that they probably interviewed 10 people before you and 10 people after you, so they may not know exactly who you are. If there was something that you had in common or discussed somewhat off topic from the job itself, for instance, if they see where you worked before, the town you worked before, or if you're in another state or whatever it is, make sure you mention that so they remember exactly who you are. Express your desire to work there again in the letter. Remember, you should have the person's business card. I said that earlier. You should know their first, last name, have their email address, their fax number. All that information is usually on a business card. If the interviewer does not have a business card, wait until you get home and call the reception desk and ask for the person's email address. Also, remember, Google's your friend. You can find these people sometimes through Google. So you can call the reception and say, hey, it's Michelle. This is Michelle Miller. I interviewed there with Mary Sue and just wanted to send her a letter and some information. Can you confirm her email address for me, please? Done deal. Well, thank you all for watching. And for further consultations, you see my information there, yourproresume1@gmail.com, as well as the phone number where I could be reached. Tell a friend to bless a friend, and I hope you were all tuned in and this information was of benefit to you. So you have a wonderful night and stay tuned for other seminars. Take care. Good night.